We'll start this afternoon with the presentation of the Society's awards. The Jacques Barzoon Prize in Cultural History was established in 1993 by a former student of Professor Barzoon's. The prize is awarded annually to the author whose book exhibits distinguished work in American or European cultural history. Michael Wood, chair of the prize selection committee, will present this year's award.
The American Philosophical Society is pleased to present the 2016 Jacques Barzoon Prize in Cultural History to Richard E. Payne in recognition of his book, A State of Mixture, Christians, Zoroastrians, and Iranian Political Culture in Late Antiquity. The title of this learned and intensely researched volume, particularly The State of Mixture, comes from the period itself under study. It refers to the second of three successive 3,000-year stages through which Zoroastrian religion pictured world history. After a first stage of ideal creation, there came an era of struggle with evil in which humans were still caught. It was their task to work towards the coming of the third stage, which would end history and restore perfection. But the title has another meaning. The State of Mixture has another meaning for Dr. Payne, contemporary with the writer and with his readers, with us, that not only evokes a religious and political mixture where scholars have mostly seen sectarian division and violence, but points to the positive values of that mixture. This is a Christian success in a steadfastly Zoroastrian world, a matter of, I quote, East Syrian secular and ecclesiastical leaders acquiring wealth, forming relationships with imperial authorities, and establishing religious institutions that transmitted their sources of economic and political capital across generations, close quote. There is a paradox here, obviously, and that is what the book explores in persuasive detail. How could a Zoroastrian emperor succeed in elevating and suppressing Christianity at the same time? How could Christians flourish in a world that was famous for persecuting them? Professor Payne does not underplay the violence and difficulty of many moments of this history, but he does show, through a close examination of Zoroastrian theology, Christian legend and law, and the common uses of symbols of power, that there was what he calls an authentic synergy between Christian and Iranian institutions, and suggests that, I quote again, the legacy of the politics of mixture extended well beyond the frontiers of the Iranian world. I want to say, too, that it extends well beyond the frontiers of late antiquity. And there is much for us to learn from this account of, I quote again, the construction of an identity that was shared by groups with irresolvable religious differences. Richard E. Payne.
Okay, all right, okay, great. Keep check, that's great. I'm glad it's still mine. Thank you for such a thoughtful reading of the work, Michael. I think it's no exaggeration to say this is the greatest honor of my career to date, to be included in your company here today. It's also enormously humbling to receive a prize that scholars I've long admired and drawn inspiration from have also received. It's really, it's quite touching. When I left the better charted territory of the late classical Mediterranean world for Iran and the various languages that the Iranian world required me to learn, I experienced no small amount of anxiety, and indeed I hesitated for a long time. My main fear was that I would lose the audience and attention of my fellow ancient historians who remain primarily focused on the Mediterranean and on Europe, and that I'm moving too far into what Peter Brown would call the woolly wild of the Middle East, I would lose their interest. I could never have anticipated then that I would receive the recognition of the Barzoon Prize, which is probably the clearest sign of an audience and attention that an ancient historian could hope to receive. And it'll serve as a source of inspiration and motivation throughout my career. I'd like to thank two of my teachers in particular, Patricia Krona and Peter Brown, for training me to do two distinct and complementary things. The first is to disrespect the areal and linguistic boundaries that have limited scholarship on the pre-modern world. And the second, and equally important, is to respect the long-standing traditions of philological rigor that make the study of pre-modern worlds possible. To do both at the same time has been a pleasure, and it's a project that I hope to continue refining in the coming years. I'd also, of course, like to thank the American Philosophical Society for recognizing the usefulness, to adopt its discourse, of multidimensional, multi-causal accounts of change in the human past, even in relatively distant antiquity. Thank you.
The Carl Spencer Lashley Award was established in 1957 by a gift from Dr. Lashley, a member of the Society and a distinguished neuroscientist and neuropsychologist. His entire scientific life was spent in the study of behavior and its neural basis. Lashley's famous experiments on the brain mechanisms of learning, memory, and intelligence helped inaugurate the modern era of integrative neuroscience, and the Lashley Award recognizes innovative work that continues exploration in the field. Eric Knudsen, a member of the Lashley Award Selection Committee, will present the award.
The recipient of the 2017 Carl Spencer Lashley Award is Dr. Michael N. Shadlin, in recognition of his pioneering experimental and theoretical studies of decision-making, identifying neural mechanisms that accumulate and convert sensory information toward behavioral choices. Michael Shadlin studies how sensory information guides behavioral choices. His experience as a clinical neurologist led to an interest in how the brain makes decisions on the basis of external evidence, in particular, how brain mechanisms combine information arriving over time to confirm choices. Guided by anatomical knowledge of sensory motor circuitry in the brain, he recorded in areas of the parietal and frontal cortex structures that link visual perception to eye movement selection, while animals performed rigorously controlled decision-making tasks. He and his colleagues discovered that these association areas integrate information using computations akin to those used in cryptanalysis and statistical hypothesis testing. Understanding the neural mechanisms by which these choices are made is fundamental to understanding cognition and behavior. Shadlin's work has combined elegant biological and behavioral experimentation with rigorous theory and analysis to uncover the brain basis for this fundamental element of cognition. Dr. Shadlin earned a PhD at the University of California, Berkeley, and an MD at Brown University. He is a professor in the Department of Neuroscience at Columbia University and an investigator at the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. On behalf of the Lashley Award Committee, it is my great pleasure to present the Carl Spencer Lashley Award for pioneering work in the field of neuroscience to Dr. Michael Shadlin. Michael.
Well, what a great pleasure it is indeed. Thank you so much to the APS, to Carl Lashley, and to Eric for those beautiful remarks, and the committee. You know, you all know, working in our fields, that really when we achieve anything, it's because of the students and our mentors around us. So I need to make sure that you all recognize that that this award is for many people's work and not really mine. I definitely have to thank former mentors for putting me on this path, in particular Bill Newsom. Now, I thought I'd just share one quick point with you about what the research is about. As a neurologist, we approach problems in the body, musculature and so forth, with some facility, with some knowledge, some rationale when approaching the patient. But when approaching disorders that affect thinking, be it schizophrenia, autism, or dementia, we're really a bit clueless still about what it is about a normal brain that makes us not confused. I view decision-making as a window on cognition, exposing principles of thought. And I will just share one principle because it's of relevance to you, which is that a thought in the brain is really the promotion of information that is useful. And so in a sense, Benjamin Franklin had it right, and I guess he was a neuroscientist latently. Thank you very much.